Should you move to the Philippines? That is the question we're going to talk about today. Going to go over some pros and cons. I have been in the Philippines 3 trips, about 8 years living here, and I'm going to get into a serious discussion, partly because of some of the emails and comments I've received recently. But it's a big decision. Big decision. This is a video I did 4 or 5 years ago, actually, and I'm going to reuse it. I think it fits in with what I want to talk about. That video was called "Why Did I Move to the Philippines and Why Did I Stay?" I think. And this is over on Mactan Newtown Beach. The first part was up Malapascua Island, north end of Cebu. Uh, Everything travels by ferry pretty much in the Philippines, ship and ferry, and it's exotic. One of the reasons I was interested in Asian countries from very young age, for that reason, I think. First, there's some questions you need to answer. Number one, why move? Wherever you're living in the world, the U.S., Canada, Australia, Europe, UK, wherever. Why move? And the big reason is retirement. You can't afford to live where you're living now on your pension, with inflation, food inflation, energy inflation, even with the Social Security and Medicare medical system in the U.S. It can be very expensive, the medical treatments, even with that, and insurances, just total transportation cost of travel, and just living. So that is another reason. Is so many cities in the U.S., especially downtown areas, Seattle, Portland. I've met several people from Portland and Seattle, California. I've lived in California for about 3 years, and I watched the news and videos. Even large businesses are leaving, especially the downtown areas, because of crime in those areas. So anyway, you've determined that you need to move someplace, whether it's across town, out of the country, across your state or province, to a different part of the country, whatever. And you've got choices. You've got Southeast Asia, you've got Central America, South America, Portugal, Spain, different European countries, African countries. Ming Dynasty was I forgot to take that out of this video discussion. I did a report in high school on the Ming Dynasty in China, just discussing about my interest in Asia at a very young age. So anyway, we're at this point where you have determined you've got to move someplace because of various factors. Why the Philippines? There are options. I was going to move to Thailand. I had made up my mind I was going to move to Thailand. I had messaged a Thai vlogger. I'll see you in 6 months or a year or something like that. And then I started understanding that I was going to have an issue with the language there. And so I started investigating the Philippines, something that had not been on my radar before, actually. I was surprised as I started researching how easy it was to come into the Philippines and stay relatively long term. People from most countries can come here on a visa on arrival. If you've got a passport that is good for at least 6 more months, those are the rules. You can pretty much fly here, and when you go through immigration customs, they will stamp your passport with a 30-day free stay. And you can stay longer. You just need to extend. And you can extend a tourist visa, as a matter of fact, up to 3 years. If you don't get in trouble, do some stupid thing where they blacklist you, as a matter of fact. And this is back on Mactan Island, taking a motorbike trip. 3 of us, the rider and 2 passengers on each of these bikes. We went around the island visiting beaches and hiking up hilly mountain towers. Another reason, Filipinos are friendly, welcoming, and many are English speaking, so you can have conversations, you get things done in English, English is the second official language. Most official documents, I think, are in English. Um, so that is a big, big plus. I'm going to get to some of the very important con side reasons that you might not want to come here, why some people might not want to, a little later in this video. How about things to do? How quickly would you get bored in a country like Belize, for instance? Belize, Central America, very small country. I looked at Belize. I looked at Ecuador. I used to get a magazine called Living Abroad, or International Living Magazine, and they've got articles and, trying to sell you on property in different countries around the world. Panama, Costa Rica, also relatively small countries. And I was thinking, number one, you've got the English. You probably have to learn Spanish in many countries or some other language, depending upon the part of the world. The Philippines is large enough and has so many different things to do. If you're bored, it's your own fault. Get out of town, go to the next island, go to a different part of the island. So there's things to do. So if you shouldn't get bored here. Another item, age is just a number. I hear that so often. This is one of the few places in the world. There are a number of places, but one of the places where dating, you can date girls, or girls can date men much younger than themselves. It is accepted. Although I've had a number of people tell me that if there is an exceptionally large gap between the age, they kind of look down on that. The famous female Filipino actor lives up on that house. And as a matter of fact, I was approached yesterday. I was at the mall here in Cebu City, and I was approached twice uh, by young girls. One, do you want a massage, sir? No, sorry, I got a girlfriend already. And that's not the kind of girl most of you are looking for, but it is. Each island is a little different. The culture is a little different on each island. Some islands are much more conservative, but um, there is a desire of many to help themselves and their families to hook up with foreigners, generally speaking. Cost of living, and I've done other videos, and we'll do another one soon about cost of living and rents. Depending upon where you live, it's your choice what your cost of living is. You need to decide and understand what your budget is and spend accordingly. You can live, and this is one of the cons as well. Cebu City, other cities in the Philippines have had a great demand up till 2019, and prices of property, of buying property, condominiums, and renting went up quite a bit every year, and to the point where probably a lot of areas equal to the cost of living in Manila areas. So that is a plus and minus, but you can find much cheaper places. I'm paying the equivalent, about 30,000 pesos, less than 600 US dollars per month, and that includes everything. Includes my rent and my electric, my water, my internet here where I live now. And I have a reasonably nice one bedroom. Not luxurious by any point, but it's comfortable. Where I'm living would cost me $1,600 to $2,000. Much, much, much more in the U.S. I couldn't afford it, basically. The experts, so-called experts, say you should spend 25 to 30% of your net income, your take-home income, on housing. Now, In reality, many people are spending much, much more than that, but that means you have less money to spend on food and medicine and all those sorts of things. Now, I have met a lot of expats over the last 8 years, 3 trips and about 8 years living in the Philippines. And what is a little scary, occasionally a guy moves here before, and or girl moves here before they have a regular pension coming in. Maybe they've sold their house and their car and their boat and their motorbike, their tools, whatever they have. They've sold all that stuff. They've got $10,000, $20,000 in the bank, and they think, well, I'm set. I'm rich now. I can move to the Philippines and live very comfortably until my pension kicks up years from now. Or even they're getting their pension check, their retirement check, and they think they can live on that. They don't have savings. This is the scary part. They don't have savings. And they come here and they find out, because they want to live the Western lifestyle. They go in and they rent a place that higher than what they should, and they find out that there are other expenses. They have a medical event, something medical happens. I've helped a couple people I'm aware of a couple people that happened. They came in, end up spending $2,000 or $3,000 on medical issues almost immediately when they came here, and that was most of their savings. So now it's paycheck to paycheck, and they're just waiting for that next check to be deposited. And that's living dangerously, whether it's here or back in the U.S. or Europe, wherever. And that's the situation with a lot of retirees all over the world. You're fortunate to be able to get that regular check. But they're basically, whereas in your country, there might be some kind of a safety net where you can get the food or some help with electric heating or cooling, that type of thing. Maybe, maybe not. Depends upon your region. Here in the Philippines, there really isn't that safety net, especially for foreigners. Another important factor is medical. Now, there are a lot of good hospitals and doctors, some even Western trained, in various parts of the Philippines. Once you get out of the major cities, well, if you've got something serious, they're gonna send you off to the larger cities, the bigger hospitals. Just like in the U.S., my sister broke a leg recently, and they were going to take her to pretty bad break. She got run over by her own car. That's kind of hard to do, but I think her granddaughter who had a permit to drive, accidentally drove over her. Anyway, a pretty bad break, and they sent her to a pretty good hospital. And being 80 years old, that took a little more serious when you're at that stage in your life, I guess. And I learned to scuba dive in the Philippines, something I probably would not have done in the USA. And cost less to learn that. I went up to Malapascua Island and I went diving the last day I was up there with these thresher sharks. Now, they do not eat humans generally. They use that long tail. They whip it. That's why they're called thresher. They thrust it out and they stun fish, I guess, and then they turn around and eat those fish. Getting back to medical, very good chance that your insurance from your country will not cover you if you're living overseas. I know the Medicare from the USA might cover you, and this from my cost of living was from my previous video. I forgot to take it out of this video. Anyway, in most instances will not cover you when you're overseas. Now, maybe if you were just taking on vacation on a trip, and maybe it would, but if you're living long term, I don't think that it will cover you at all. A lot of the minor things, the average doctor bill, going in and seeing a doctor, even a specialist, anywhere from 4, 5, 600. I think the most I paid for a specialist was 800 pesos. $16 for an office call and a prescription. The prescription costs extra, of course, and different medicines. Some cost less, and some cost more than you'll find in your country, just depending. I had a friend who had a brain aneurysm. He was in a hospital, with one of the more expensive hospitals here in Cebu, for about exactly a month. Cost him 440,000 pesos, I believe. A little over a year later, just recently, he was in with pneumonia. Cost him, I think, over 200,000 for about 2 weeks. About 3,600 US dollars, depending upon the exchange rates. It's really good right now. Closer to 4,000 with a lower exchange rate. 10 years ago in the US, I paid about 4,000 to have my gallbladder removed. That was after my insurance paid. I was on a 70/30. I paid 30% and deductible. So even with reasonably good insurance, it can get very expensive in the U.S. Patience. One reason many expats leave the Philippines, or any other country probably. In fact, I've read the same about Costa Rica, Panama, Belize, many other countries as well, is that a lot of cultures are not always on the run like American cultures. I don't know about European cultures. Filipinos take time to live, and I hear that often. Filipinos say Westerners are always busy. They're always working, or they don't take time to relax and enjoy life. And that's kind of true. Kind of true. You need to learn to relax. You need to have patience if you need things done. Plumbing, electrical, other issues, getting things repaired. You know, it could likely take some time. Getting various types of visas can take a lot longer than what you would think. Now, many of you know I've done interviews with JRC Visa Consultancy, and they can often expedite if you're looking for that marriage visa, work visa, retirement visa, those types of things. They know the system. But yeah, many foreigners, regardless of where you live, just there's a point. There's a point where you just you break at some point in time. You just, okay, that's enough. I'm going. I can't handle it. Can't handle it anymore. Things to do. This is a topic I'm going to talk about now, and one of the great reasons to move to the Philippines. There are so many things to do here in the Philippines. You've got the beaches, you've got the mountains, you've got caves, you've got hiking trails, you've got scuba diving, snorkeling, just so many things to see, and generally in a safe environment. Generally, there are parts of the world that if you go out, they've got man-eating sharks out there. The Florida coast, the Gulf Coast, Australian coasts. They've got some dangerous snakes in the Philippines. I have not seen one. I've seen one snake, I think, and that fell out of a small tree. A small snake fell out of a tree onto the street here in Cebu City, and some kids got run over, killed it. Some kids picked it up and took it home, I guess. I've had a number of people over the years, and even recently, email me and comment. When I come, I have no idea where to start. What do you recommend that I do? And recently, somebody said, I've got a brother or cousin, some relatives coming. Where do you suggest I take them? Well, I don't know. What are they interested in? What are you interested in? You need to sit down, and you need to not just your budget, not just go over your budget. You need to decide what's going to make you happy. What's going to make you happy? How do you want to spend your time in the Philippines, your day? You can just relax at home. You can go to the mall. You can go to the market. You can go to the beach, the mountains. I mean, the possibilities are just about endless. You can hire a motorbike driver, a hobble to take you around to tour an island. They have boats, banca boats that will give you a tour around the water side of the islands. You can go island hopping. What do you want to do? What will make you happy? They've got movie theaters here. Well, in the cities anyway. Once you get out of the cities, I don't know. It might be more difficult to find that kind of thing. Bigger cities, you've got your food choices. Um, I've a few people that even complain about food choices here in Cebu City, relatively large city, and that's probably true. We're getting more and more, but it's not like Manila, for instance, the big business districts in Manila, which Manila is what, 10, 20 times larger, perhaps even larger than that, than risks and calamities. Of course, you got that all over the world, don't you? You've got Germany. I think they had one of their major airports flooded out here recently. You've got fires in Canada and different parts of the U.S., forest fires evacuating tens of thousands of people. You've got tornadoes, hurricanes. You've got a hurricane, I think, hitting South Texas right now. A couple others coming across the Atlantic, perhaps going to hit the east coast of the U.S. Tornadoes in the Midwest. I have heard two tornadoes come over in the middle of the night. One came right over our house, and Siquior Island, and so you've got risks and calamities all over the world. Living is a risk, but the alternative is not very appealing. One thing I love about the Philippines is that there are less regulations. 4 people on a bike. I think when I was on Siquior, I took a picture. There was 7 people on one motorbike, and they were going up into the mountains, up to a lake up in the mountains, I think. Talk about freedom of travel, and we're kind of back to that time. But yeah, you can rent a bike or hire a tricycle driver, a hobble driver. This is a cemetery on the side of the road, and you can go. You can do pretty much what you want. Not talking about the last 2.5 years of travel lockdowns all over the world. One thing is very important. You should have a plan B, plan C. If things don't go well for you for whatever reason, what are you going to do? Do you have money to go to another country, Thailand, Vietnam, back to your home country? You should have that plan. You should have the cash available to do that type of thing. And you do get they have done some infrastructure thing. They've cleaned some rivers out, canals out, and we get a little less flooding than what this was from years ago. And I was walking through this stuff because I couldn't find a taxi. They were all taken, usually, which can happen, especially during rush hour when it's raining. It'll be a little more difficult to get a taxi, and then they're stuck. They're not driving through this stuff oftentimes if it's too deep. But not many streets anymore that I've experienced that are flooded. And I know I shouldn't be walking through this, and people warned me about the waterborne disease that is common here. It comes from, I think, rodents, rodent feces, that type of thing, especially if you have open sores. I will do another video about that, about, for instance, dengue, which is spread by mosquitoes, and forget how to pronounce the starts with an L. The disease you can get from water. I will also be doing another video very soon on like entertainment choices. I just bought a. I've had cable television a couple times through internet providers here, and that is an option. It is not an option for me right now because the PLDT told us they had cable television available when we switched from Sky Cable, but turns out they're out of. They have a contract, I think, a partnership with Signal cable company, and they're out of boxes. And I asked them, well, they said you can check back next month. This was several months ago. And I asked them at the time, I said, well, how long have you been out? And she said, oh, about a year. So, well, that doesn't sound. You can check back next month. And I've checked back a couple other months, and they still don't have boxes. So I don't know if it's a contract problem that they're dropping that. Maybe Signal upped their price or something. They, like so many of the cable channels in the U.S., a cable channel will drop different channels because of a dispute over pricing. So anyway, I went out and bought a Roku. Some of you know what that is. It's a little Roku Express, little box plug into my HDMI port on my television. Cost me about 1,600 pesos. What is that? I think a little less than 30 US dollars. Plugged it in and registered it, and I've got cable television now. You still, if you want Netflix, if you want different things, you can get it, but I can get free of charge through that, even in the Philippines, not using a VPN. I can get Tucson. I can get local news channels from all over the U.S. and maybe parts of other parts of the world as well. And in fact, France 24, which is one of the channels I like to watch, the Japanese English-speaking news channel is on there, free of charge. I can get Phoenix and Tucson local news channels here in the Philippines. So, and movie channels with thousands of free movies on it. Now, if you want the extra sports channels, you have to subscribe to those sports channels, whether it's UFC or NFL or depends on what sport you follow. So how about you? You've been thinking about it. Are you ready to move? Have you done your due diligence? Do you have the budget to move and to survive in another country like the Philippines? Great place, in my opinion. It is the absolute best choice that I could have made. I could live almost anything. I've moved around the USA to different states and different cities, and I could adapt almost anywhere, I think. I think I am probably the happiest in the Philippines. I think it is a good match for me. My other choices probably would be Thailand. I haven't been to Thailand yet, but I did a lot of research on Thailand. Vietnam. I went to Vietnam for about 10 days, and I could live there. Costa Rica, Panama. You're going to have to learn Spanish. Belize, I think, is an English speaking, but just very small. I think I'd get bored quite quickly. There's other Portugal. I've read some good things about Portugal. But all in all, and there again, you're going to have to learn the language. All in all, I think everything included, I think the Philippines is absolutely the best choice for many foreigners, many expats. And, when I came here, I understood that if I didn't like it, I could move to another part of the Philippines, or I could move to another country. I had the plan B and plan C, and because I'd done research on different areas, so I could pick up and leave. But it's been working out exceptionally well. So see you next time.